Hey everybody, welcome to today's yoga practice. As you can see, we're in the middle of a pretty crazy snowstorm here. Haven't seen the likes of this in many years. And inside of the house, things are chaotic as usual. Slime on the floor, mechanical dogs running free, oatmeal on the table. Nana's got a marker. Hard to know where that's gonna go. But fortunately for us, we have the yoga practice to help us deal with some of these things that we can't always perfectly control. So today we're going to do a 60-minute vinyasa-style yoga class. We're going to focus on the shoulders and the hips and exploring the mobility and stability throughout the range of motion in those big ball and socket joints. You won't need any particular props. But if you like to have blocks or a bolster or a strap, go ahead and grab that now and meet me on the mat. All right, well, welcome everybody to yoga practice this morning. Let's get started today in child's pose. So we'll take our knees at least hip distance apart, maybe a little wider if that creates more space in your hips or is easier on your knees, and then lower down and try to release your forehead down onto the mat or onto your hands. Your hips can stay high to start, or if you prefer, you can sink your hips down towards your heels. Once you found a comfortable position, fidget around until you do, and then settle down into your child's pose and just start to let go of the attempt to constantly, unconsciously improve your position or make yourself more comfortable, and start to slip into that observational frame of mind. Turning the attention inward, closing your eyes, starting to feel the sensations in your body, the feeling of your body resting on the mat or any props that you might be using. Start to notice the sensations in your body. And then start to notice your breathing. Not doing anything at the moment to shape or manipulate the breath, but just observing the natural rise and fall of your breath. And then when you feel ready, slowly make your way up onto your knees. Sit back in thunderbolt pose. Of course, if this is not accessible to you, you can sit on a block or you can sit on your bottom in a cross-legged position, and then lengthen out your spine. Close your eyes again. Bring your palms together in prayer position, Anjali Mudra at the level of your heart. Take a moment to remember your sankalpa or your intention for your practice today. And trusting that this practice will serve your highest intention. We'll seal that intention and set the context for the rest of practice by chanting Hari Om 3 times. Feel free to add your voice as much or as little as you like. Inhale. Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om. Let's release our hands down to our knees or our lap and start to make some circles with the head. So moving nice and slow, feeling out things in the cervical spine. And just notice any places where you might feel some catching or grabbing. And then switch directions. And remember, at any time, if you feel uncomfortable, you can change your seating position or switch the cross of your legs. Good, and then coming back to neutral, let's extend both arms out to the side. Turn your right palm up toward the ceiling and then turn your left palm toward the back of the room and just drop your right ear over towards your right shoulder. And then come back to neutral with the head and we'll switch your hand position. So turn your left palm actually up toward the ceiling and your right thumb down so that the back of your palm is pressed toward the back of the wall, and then drop your left ear over towards your left shoulder. And let's move this way with the breath a few times. So inhaling to neutral and then exhaling or wringing out the arms, the shoulders, and the neck, and adding that breath connected movement. Maybe starting to incorporate some ujjayi pranayama, forming that slight constriction at the back of your throat, and making your breath nice and slow and smooth and even so that your inhalations last just a little longer than the movement and your exhalations last a little bit longer than the movement. Coming back to neutral, weave your fingers together, bring your elbows up about shoulder height, and let's work out the wrists. You can move fast or slow, and see if you could focus on putting your mind into your wrist joints, building a little heat in the wrists. And then switching directions. Coming back to neutral. Let's come to standing on the knees. Knees are going to be about hip width apart. Tops of the feet can be flat on the mat for now. And use your inhalation to stretch your arms up high, overhead. Maybe palms come to touch. And then on your exhalation, use the strength of your belly to lower yourself back down to child's pose. Use your inhale to rock forward into table. Look forward past the front of your mat. And then on your exhalation, curl your toes under and press yourself back for downward facing dog. Inhaling forward into table, look past the front of the mat. Exhale, child's pose. That's one round. We'll keep moving this way with the breath. Inhale, rise up to standing on the knees, reach up. Maybe palms touch. Exhale, child's pose. Inhale forward into table. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, table. Exhale, child's pose. Let's do one more round. Inhale, rise up, reach up. Exhale, child's pose. Inhale forward into table. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, table. Exhale, child's pose. And then on your next inhalation, let's rock forward back into your table. Walk your hands over to the right side of the mat. Keep your hands about shoulder width apart, and then drop your hips back down towards your heels so that you feel a nice stretch in the left side body. And once you're here, you can feel free to
Shift your shoulders up and down a little bit, rocking the shoulders side to side, just exploring the edge of the movement. And it's a little bit different than when we take a side stretch in child's pose. You can see for most of us, myself included, your hips will probably be away from the heels. This might allow you to do a little bit more useful work in the side bending shape. So tractioning out the arms, hips are heavy. Good. And then inhale forward, we'll walk back across. Middle of the mat, hands come over to the left this time, and then drop your heels back, creating that tractioning feeling. Probably mostly feel it on the right side, but you may feel it on both sides, and then go ahead and rock your shoulders side to side a little bit, exploring the edge of the movement, continuing with your breathing. Good, and then when you're ready, let's go ahead and walk back to neutral. Spread your fingers nice and wide on the mat. Maybe walk your hands one handprint in front of where they're at and curl your toes under and press yourself back for downward facing dog. And breathing here. On your next exhalation, shift both of your heels over to the left and bend your knees. And then inhale back to center. And on your exhalation, shift both your hips over to the right and bend your knees. And just keep moving this way. Remember to stretch the breath, making the breath last a little bit longer than the movement. And then once you've done both sides an equal number of times, let's go ahead and shift forward into plank pose. So shoulders come over the wrist, charge up the legs as if the strength of your legs were holding you up as much as the strength of your arms. Tuck your tailbone slightly so you feel the muscles over your pubic bone engage. Continue breathing. Remember, we want to work the whole body here. So if you feel overloaded in your shoulders, shift a little further forward. You may find that it turns on some of those core muscles and the leg muscles in a way you haven't been using as much. You might find that it's still a lot of work, but it distributes the work through your body in a way that doesn't put so much pressure on your shoulders. And of course, if this is too much on your wrists, you can always come down onto your forearms. All right, on your exhalations, lower all the way down to the mat with control, either in plank or knees, chest, chin. All right, once you're down, use your inhalation to lift your head and your chest. Keep the tops of your feet on the mat for now, and then exhale, lower down. And let's move that way with your breath a few times. Each time you inhale, lift the head and the chest. And each time you exhale, lower down. So we want to see if we can use the strength of the back body rather than the strength of the arms to control the movement. Just waking up the back body, working in another direction of movement. All right, on your next inhalation, lift the head, lift the chest, maybe hover the arms up off of the mat if it feels okay on the low back. You can pick up your feet and your knees, pressing the pubic bone down into the mat. Try to think about getting more length in your spine rather than a lot of height in your head or your feet. Check to make sure that you're working evenly through both sides of the body. And then on your exhalation, let's go ahead and lower all the way down to your belly. Extend your right arm straight out to the right, level with your shoulder, palm facing down. And on your exhalation, just roll to your right any amount, maybe dropping your left leg behind your right leg. And then inhale back to center. Right hand returns underneath the shoulder. Exhale, left hand comes out, palm facing down. Roll to the left any amount, maybe dropping the right leg behind the left. Continue moving in this way with your own breath. Find that rhythm so that you stretch out the breath. Make it nice and slow so that you have a little time to get into the front of the shoulder girdle and the pectoral muscles. And then once you come back to neutral, let's prop yourself up on your forearms. We'll set up for Sphinx pose, bend at the knees, and make some circles with your feet. And really feel the femur circumducting in the hip socket as you move and breathe. All right, switching directions. Coming back to neutral, lower all the way down onto the mat. Bring your palms down by the heels of your hands down by your low ribs. Curl your toes under, and then use your exhalation to press yourself back up through your neutral table and return to downward facing dog. Take an inhalation here. And at the bottom of your exhalations, walk our feet up towards our hands and meet in a bent knee forward fold at the front of the mat. Bend your knees. Feel your rib cage making contact with your thighs. The low back traction out. Just breathing here. You can do whatever you like with your hands. I'm going to take a little movement just to check your balance. Continue with your breathing. Good. And on your next inhalation, find your halfway lift. So lengthen out the spine as if you were going to flatten the back, as if you were flattening the back. And then exhale, fold. Inhale, come all the way up to standing. Reach up, maybe palms come to touch overhead. And then exhale, mountain pose. All right, let's go through a few rounds of Surya Namaskara A. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, fold, hinge at the hips, bend your knees. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, step or hop back into plank, and inhale the shoulders over the wrists. Exhale, lower down with control, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, Cobra, or maybe pressing yourself into Up Dog. Exhale, Downward Facing Dog. And take a few breaths here. Bottom of your next exhalation, pause the breath and step or maybe hop your feet to the front of the mat. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rise up, reach up. Exhale, mountain pose. All right, let's do a few more rounds like that. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, bend your knees and step or hop back and lower down, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, Cobra, maybe Up Dog. Exhale, Downward Facing Dog. Take an inhale here. And at the bottom of your exhalation, pause the breath and step or hop your feet to the front of the mat. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rise up, reach up. Exhale, mountain pose. Last round here. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, step or hop back and lower down. Inhale, Cobra or Up Dog. And then exhale, Downward Facing Dog. Try to find some stillness in your Downward Facing Dog. See if you can smooth out the breath. On your next inhalation, lift your right leg high. Bend through the knee and stack the hips. And then straighten out the leg, leveling the hips. On your exhalation, step your right hand outside of your right foot. So both hands are to the inside of the right foot. We'll make some circles with the hips here. And then switch directions. And then coming back to neutral, ground down to your right hand. We'll take a twist, raising the left arm up toward the ceiling, stacking the wrists, stacking the shoulders. Continue breathing. And then lowering your left knee down toward the mat. Sorry, I think I got that wrong. We're lifting our right arm. We're going to, on your exhalation, bring your right elbow down to the mat inside of your right foot. And then use your inhalation to reach back up with the right hand toward the ceiling. So on your exhalation, we're dropping that elbow inside of the right foot. And then inhale back up. And just keep moving this way with your breath. The next time you exhale, bring your right hand down inside your right foot, curl the back toes under. We'll step back into plank pose. Inhale the shoulders over the wrists. And on your exhalation, lower down with control, either in plank or knees, chest, chin. Inhale, cobra or up dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Breathing here. On your inhalation, lift your left leg high. Bend through the knees, stack your hips. And then squeezing the left leg straight, level out the hips. And on your exhalation, step your left foot outside of your left hand. Hands come to the floor, blocks, and then go ahead and stir it up a little bit, moving the hip in a circle as you come forward and then back. Of course, the left knee is going to flex and extend, creating some length in the back of the leg, switching directions. Good, and then coming back to neutral, plant your left hand underneath your left shoulder. Sorry, right hand underneath your right shoulder. Do it again. Reach your left hand up toward the ceiling, stacking the wrists, stacking the shoulders. Breathing here in your twist. Good, and then dropping your back knee down to the mat. On your exhalation, lower your left elbow down toward the mat inside of your left foot. And then inhale, reach back up. And just keep moving this way with your breath. Now, the next time you exhale, left hand comes down inside the left foot, curl the back toes under, step back into plank pose, shoulders come over the wrist, lower down with control. Inhale, cobra or up dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Smooth out the breath. Bottom of your next exhalation, go ahead and step and hop your feet to the front of the mat. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, rise up, reach up. Exhale, mountain pose. All right, feet are about hip width apart. We're going to work on some step back lunges, moving toward a shrimp squat. So let's shift your weight onto your left foot. And as you move forward, you're going to step back with your right foot. Not so deep that you're coming into the kind of high lunge that we teach in yoga, but more towards a 90-degree shape. And as you step back with your knee, as your knee bends, as you step back, you're going to bring your arms out in front of you and lean forward slightly. And then lower down so your knee softly touches the ground. And then inhale, back up to standing. So we'll stay with the same leg for a few rounds. Exhale, stepping back. Inhale, back to mountain pose. Just keep moving this way. And if you want to add a little bit of a challenge, you can add a stall, pausing halfway down. before your foot and your knee come down to the mat. Keep moving with your own breath at your own pace. And then coming back to mountain pose, find your breath, find your balance, and we'll go on the other side. So shifting your weight onto your right foot. As you exhale, step the left foot back, lower down with control, and then inhale back up to stand. Once you've completed the step back lunge that you are currently on, let's go ahead and return to your mountain pose, and on your exhalation, forward fold. Bend your knees enough that you can hook your peace fingers and your thumb around your big toes for Padangusthasana. Release the crown of your head. Take a few breaths here, and keeping that bend in your knees to protect the low back. Let your breathing even out. And then, once your breath is evened out, on your next inhalation, keep the bind but lengthen the spine as if you were trying to flatten the back. Press down through your feet. Pull a little bit on your toes with your fingers. And then exhale, fold, let everything soften. Do a few rounds like that with the breath. Inhaling, lengthen the spine. Exhaling, fold. And keep moving that way with your own breath. All right, the next time you come down, release the bind with your hands and use your inhalation to come all the way up to standing. Sweep the arms out and up, lift the chest. Maybe palms come to touch, and then on your exhalation, let's step into a wide-legged stance. I'm going to step my right foot back so that you can see me. Open up into a wide-legged stance. Bring your arms out to the side, and on your exhalation, we're going to reach across the body with the right hand for the left foot. And reach the left arm up toward the ceiling. And if you can't reach all the way for your foot, don't worry about it. You can bring your hand to the floor or block. And then on your next inhalation, come on back up through neutral. And on your exhalation, we'll go to the other side. So left hand comes down toward the outside of the right foot. And then inhale, come on back up to center. And we'll add some breath-connected movement. So on your exhalation, you're going to bring your right hand down toward the outside of your left foot, reach the left arm up, and then inhale back to center. And as you move to the other side, see if you can focus on making the movement really smooth so that you're not bending and then twisting, or twisting and then bending, but you're doing one motion as you breathe. Once you've completed both sides an equal number of times, let's come back up to standing, turn the toes in slightly, weave the fingers together behind the back, press your knuckles down toward the floor, inhale, lift the chest, exhale, forward fold, Vritti-Padottanasana, working the thumbs away from the sacrum, release the crown of the head, feeling your feet on the mat, continue breathing. this bind, we're going to, on your next exhalation, we're going to bend through the right knee and shift your hips over to the right. Now, coming into a transverse lunge with the bind, and of course if the bind's too much for you, you can bring your hands down to the floor. Try to keep your right heel on the ground. Take a lot of weight in the outer pinky toe side of your right foot. Continue breathing. Good, and then inhale back to center, and on your exhalation, bend through your left knee and shift your hips over to the left. And try to keep your knee tracking in the same direction as your toes. So you want your knee pointed in the same direction as your toes, don't let it collapse in. Good, and then inhaling back to center, exhaling to the right. Inhaling back to center, exhaling to the left. And keep moving this way for a few rounds on your own with your own breath. And of course, as you get comfortable with the shape, you may want to play around some variations, maybe spinning your toes up toward the ceiling. Again, you can release the bind if it's not serving you anymore. And then the next time you come back to center, release the bind if you still have it. Bring your hands to your hips. Inhale, come all the way back up to standing. Shorten your stance just slightly so that you have one of your own legs distance apart. Bend your knees a little bit. Bring your hands behind your head. Press your head into your hands. Press your elbows toward the wall behind you. Lengthen out the neck. Lengthen out the spine. Drop the shoulders. Drop the shoulder blades down away from the ears. And then softening what you're doing with your arms, your head, and your neck. On your exhalation, let's start making a big circle down to your right. Use your inhalation to come on back up to your left. Slight back bend at the top, and then repeat. So keep the movement nice and slow. And then as you move, think about moving in such a way that you can smooth out the kinks in the kinetic chain. So places where you feel a little unstable or unstable, slow down. And then once you've completed the circle that you're currently on, when you come to the top, let's switch directions. All right, coming back up to neutral. Release the bind, and we'll step our feet to the front of the mat. Find your Tadasana, find your breath, maybe close your eyes and find your balance. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, fold. Hinge at the hips, bend your knees. Inhale, lengthen out the spine. Exhale, step or hop back into plank pose. And inhale the shoulders over the wrists. All right, dropping your left knee down to the mat. Step your left foot off the side of the mat, and then bring your right foot in line with your left hand and your left knee for a supported vinyasa-style. Extending the left arm, right arm up toward the ceiling, and really engaging those muscles around your shoulder blade on the left side to help create some stability in the shape. And then coming back, bring your right hand back down onto the mat, step back into plank pose, and then drop your right knee down, step your right foot off the right side of the mat, bring your left foot in line with your right wrist and your right knee, and reach your left arm up toward the ceiling. Again, find that stability with the upper back on the right side, engaging those muscles around the shoulder blade, and then coming back to plank. We're going to move that way with the breath. So you can stay in the supported variation and continue dropping your knee as you move side to side, or you can just roll your heels from side to side. So if you're rolling your heels on your exhalation, let's shift both heels over to the left and reach up with the right hand. And then coming back through your plank pose, On your next exhalation, shift your hips over to the right and reach up for the seat. Continue moving in this way with your own breath, taking the modified variation of vinyasa-style or keeping your knees off the ground. All right, the next time you come back to the first side, in this case, we were on the left hand. Stretch your right arm over your right ear, past the front of the mat, and lift your hips to form a big crescent shape with your body. Continue breathing. Good, and then coming back through neutral, we'll shift to the other side. So, vinyasa-style on the right, any variation, and then reaching the left arm over the left ear, lift your hips, make that half moon shape. Continue breathing. Good, and then coming back to your neutral plank, inhale your shoulders over the wrist, and on your exhalation, lower all the way down to the mat with control. Make a pillow with your hands, bring your forehead down onto the back of your top hand, shift your hips side to side a few times as you let your breathing even out. Rising up for Sphinx pose. We're going to bring our elbows under our shoulders to start. Palms flat on the mat. Lift up through the crown of your head. And then find a little work for your shoulders. Let's cross our hands so that your right hand is in front of your left hand. Your right forearm, rather, is in front of your left forearm. And then walk your hands towards opposite sides of the mat. So your elbows will be maybe stacked, one in front of the other, right in front of left. Maybe they won't be quite stacked. Maybe you can even go a little bit further. And once you've found a shape that's going to serve you, press down through your hands and your forearms and start to isometrically drag your hands back toward one another. So you're dragging your right elbow toward the right side of your mat and your left elbow toward the left side of your mat. Continue breathing. Good. And then from here, let's go ahead. Unwind, switch the cross of your arms. So your left arm comes in front. Walk your hands towards opposite sides of the mat. Once you've found your shape, press down through your hands and your forearms, and then start to drag your hands toward one another, feeling those muscles in the outer shoulders and the upper back. Turn on, lengthen out the neck, continue breathing. Good, all right, then coming back to neutral, unwind your arms. We'll lower all the way down onto your bellies. We haven't done this one in a while. Some of you will remember this. We're going to take Kali Mudra with your hands. So weave together your pinkies, ring fingers, and index fingers, and then press your middle finger, and then press your index finger, your pointer finger, and the thumbs together. So you're making this shape with your hands. And then extend both of your hands out in front of you. Lift your arms and pick up your feet. So for a variation of locust pose. Now we're going to move out of the shape. So if you haven't seen this before, you can go ahead and watch. I'm going to start by going to my right. On an exhalation, I'm going to roll to my right, just off my mat, and I'm going to come into Ardha Navasana, low boat pose. So my fingers are pointed toward my toes now, looking toward my toes. A couple of breaths here. And then on an exhalation, I'm going to extend my hands overhead and roll all the way across the mat in one breath to end up on the other side in low boat. All right, breathe in here. On your next exhalation, roll back to the first side. And then back to the second side. And then exhale, back to the middle of the mat. Lift the hands, lift the feet. And then exhale, lower down. Make a pillow with your hands. Shift your hips. Continue breathing. Coming back into stillness, we're going to move through Sphinx pose toward Dhanurasana, bow pose. So set yourself up on your mat, and when you're ready, bend your knees, and then reach back with your hands for the outside of your heels. You can slide a strap around your ankles. If that makes it easier, you can just reach back and skip the bind. Once you're here, press your feet up toward the ceiling. Use the strength of your arms to lift your head and your chest. Continue breathing, feeling the back body engaged evenly. Glutes, hamstrings, mid-back, upper back, even the back of the neck, engaging as it lengthens, not creating any tension. And then on your exhalation, let's go ahead and lower all the way down to the mat. Bring your palms down flat on the mat. Walk your hands back so the heels of your hands are about level with your low ribs. Curl your toes under, and on your exhalation, push yourself right up through plank and back to downward facing dog. So once you find your downward facing dog, puff out your low back a little bit. Draw your abdominal muscles in so that you can feel the energy of your breath moving into your back body. So as you inhale, see if you can feel that low back expand a little bit. And on your exhalation, see if you can lengthen out the spine. All right, then from here, we're going to come to seated. And you may want to turn sideways so you have some padding for your knees. You're going to bring your feet out a little bit wider than your hips. Hands can be a comfortable distance behind you. And then when you're ready, just going to drop both of your knees over to your right. So drop your knees over to your right and then set them up so that you have kind of a 90-90 shape with your legs. So your knees are bent at 90 degrees on both legs. And then coming back to center, on your exhalation, drop both knees over to the left. Good. Check your feet. And then try to keep your feet where they are as you move. Go ahead and inhale back to center. And then we'll start moving with the breath. So exhaling over to the right. And then inhaling back to center. And then exhaling left. And just keep moving this way with your breath. And if you want to make it a little more challenging, you can pick up your hands and either reach out in front of you or clasp your hands like you're taking Ganesh Mudra. And just continue moving in this way. And after a few rounds, if you want to add a little more challenge, when you come to one side, you can rise up to standing on your knees. So you're exhaling, dropping the knees over, inhaling up to standing on the knees, exhaling back down, inhaling down to center, and then exhaling over to the other side, and inhaling coming up to standing on the knees. So whether or not you're adding the standing on your knees variation, the next time you come to the middle, let's come up into Navasana. So inhaling into Navasana, then exhaling over to one side or the other, inhaling up, exhaling down, inhaling Navasana, exhaling to the other side. And then once you've done both sides an equal number of times, let's come back to seated and then pivot around to the front of your mat and find your downward facing dog. And breathe in here. At the bottom of your next exhalation, Step your right foot forward outside of your right hand. And then lift your right hand up so that you're balanced on your left hand, your right foot, and your left leg extended behind you. And then we're going to pull the left leg through toward the front of the mat. So we're going to balance on the left hand and the right foot. As you shift, pull the left foot forward, extending it forward past the front of the mat. And then stepping the left foot back, bring your right hand back down to the mat, and step yourself back into downward facing dog. All right, we're going to do this on the other side. So when you're ready, step your left foot forward outside of your left hand. Lift your left hand off the mat, and then balancing on the right hand and the left foot, step your right foot through, extend it forward past the front of the mat, and then step yourself back into downward facing dog. All right, we're going to add some breath connected movement as we do this. So exhale, right foot forward. Inhale, extend the left leg. Exhale back to downward facing dog. Take an inhale here. And then exhale, step the left foot forward. Inhale the right leg through. Exhale, downward facing dog. Take an inhale here. Exhale, step the right foot forward. Inhale, left leg through. And then exhale back to downward facing dog. Last time here. On your exhalation, left foot forward. Right foot slides through. And then exhale, downward facing dog. And once you find your downward facing dog, let's lower down into child's pose. Knees come down. Tops of the feet come down. Find your resting pose. Find your breath. Let's come over onto our backs. So come onto your back body. We'll lower down onto the mat. Bend your knees. So start with your feet a comfortable distance away from your hips. And then pick up your feet and let's cross the right leg over the left, nice and high. Squeezing the thighs together and then maybe double crossing the right toes behind the left ankle. And once you have that, extend your arms out to the side. We'll cross right under left for the arms, grabbing for the opposite shoulder, or maybe moving into Garuda arms. So wrapping the fingers of the right hand into the left palm. And then once you're here, tuck your chin, lift your shoulder blades off the ground, press your right elbow into your right thigh. Continue breathing. And then lowering the head and shoulders back down to the mat. Unwind the arms. Keep the bind in the legs. Let your heel, your left heel touch down, and then pick up your hips and shift them over to the right. And then once you've done that, go ahead and let both knees fall over to the left for a Garuda twist. So it might feel good to bring your left hand down to the outside of your right thigh and extend your right arm out to the side. You can turn your head and eyes toward the right hand if that feels good. You can bring both arms out to a T. If you want to increase the length on your right side, you can extend your right arm overhead behind you, letting the knees be heavy, feeling the outer right hip drop down toward your heels. All right, then when you're ready, let's come back through center, uncross your legs, shift your hips back to the middle of the mat. We're going to cross the left leg over the right, maybe double crossing the legs, and then bringing the arms out to the side. We'll cross left under right this time, maybe grabbing for the opposite shoulder, maybe double crossing the arms, and then from here, pick up the head and the chest, press the left elbow into the left thigh, continue breathing. let your feet come down to touch. Pick up your hips, shift them over to the left, and then let both of your knees drop over to the right. Maybe keeping the left arm extended, maybe turning the eye gaze toward the left hand, maybe extending both arms. You want to play around, add in some extra length. On that left side, it might feel good to reach overhead with the left arm. Continue breathing. When you're ready, let's go ahead and come on back to neutral. Bring your feet down, flat on the mat. Take a moment just to check in with how you're feeling. Notice if there's anything you have left to do in your body before we move into Shavasana. It's the next pose we're going to practice together as a group. So if there's something you'd like to do while your body is warm, feel free to start to work in that direction. Or maybe just take a simple pose on your back, like happy baby, rock a little bit side to side, just to help bring some compensation in the spine and prepare you for your final rest. And then when you're ready, you can transition into your Shavasana in any way that feels useful to you. So if you want to grab a socks or a blanket or some props to set yourself up, then go ahead and get what you need. And once you come into your final resting pose, take any final movements just to make yourself 5 to 10% more comfortable. And then bring your attention to your body resting on the mat, the floor, and the props. And just feel the support of the ground. Really giving your weight to whatever you're resting on. Close your eyes. Let your tongue come down from the roof of your mouth. And just draw your attention inward, grounding your attention in the body as you allow yourself to start to integrate the work that you've done. attention back to your breath at the navel. Let's begin to slowly deepen your inhalations and lengthen your exhalations. And when you feel ready to add some movement back into your body, start small, moving the fingers and the toes, and then gradually adding back the wrists and the ankles. And then when you're ready, take the next minute or so to find your way back up to a comfortable seat. And we'll close with a few minutes of pranayama. So take a moment, if it's useful to you, to add some height underneath your hips in the form of a block or a bolster. And once you find your comfortable seat, check to make sure that you're balanced evenly left to right on your sits bones. Release the low belly. And lift up through the crown of your head. Let your shoulders fall down away from your ears. Close your eyes. And if you haven't already, bring your tongue down from the roof of your mouth. Lightly press the tip of your tongue against the juncture where the back of your top teeth meet the roof of your mouth, so right along the gum line there. And then bring your attention to your breath as it enters and exits through the tip of your nose. And on your next inhalation, you're going to add a silent count to make your inhalation and your exhalation last the same amount of time. So if you inhale for a count of 6, then go ahead and exhale for a count of 6. If you inhale for 8, exhale for 8. If you inhale for 4, exhale for 4. Just find a nice easy rhythm like this, not trying to stretch out the breath. Just trying to find a nice even vritti pattern. Next time you exhale, lengthen out the count so it lasts half again as long as your inhalation. So if you inhale for a count of 6, exhale for a count of 9. If you inhale for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 6. So we want to make the exhalations a little bit longer, half again as long as the inhalations. Once you've completed your next round of breathing, release the count, release the technique. Bring your palms together in prayer position Anjali Mudra at the level of your heart. And take one final moment for the practice of gratitude, bringing into your heart and into your mind whatever it is that you feel grateful for, and seeing if you can connect with it in such a way that you can feel that feeling of gratitude in your body. And we'll close by chanting Om Shanti 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 Hi. Feel free to add your voice as much or as little as you like. Inhale. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thanks for sharing your practice, everyone. Hope you have a great day. Namaste.